What's up everybody, Victor here, and it's time for another guide, this one being centered around mana management. The reason I'm doing this guide is, well, first and foremost because somebody asked for it, and if you guys ask for it, I'm likely to do it. Second off, however, I've seen a lot of complaints recently because people just can't keep up with YouTubers. Either they can't expand as fast, or they don't have the tech that they do, or they can't complete all the ideas that they can, or they're being out-devved. And I wanted to explain how proper mana management works from the very basic level, because I think that is where a lot of mistakes are being made. So let's go ahead and talk about proper techniques to understand how much mana you actually have to spend, because you're overspending and that's what's causing the problem. So let's go ahead and begin. Since most people's barometer on whether or not they're falling behind in the game is whether or not they're quote-unquote behind in technology, that is a good way to frame all of this discussion, which is what this entire chart is for. Now this looks like a lot of numbers and some math, but don't be worried, it's not really that difficult. What this is doing is it's taking the monthly income worth of Monarch power generation, which has a base amount of 3 and a maximum amount of 18 in any particular group. So admin, diplo, or military, the minimum you'll get every month is 3, the maximum is 18. The one in here is just so you know how much extra Monarch points that you'll gain over this period of time by hiring a level 1 advisor or the +1 estates. Whatever it happens to be, that's what each one of those is worth. Seems simple enough. So as you can see, you have the first column, that monthly income amount. Second, the yearly amount of that amount. Third, the 13-year amount, which is the time between techs. Now, so as you can see on the right, you have that ahead of time of 210% of 21 years. Techs are supposed to be taken for no ahead of time penalty every 13 years. Meaning that it'll be 600 every 13 years. To take it before then, you're paying 10% more each year. Seems simple enough. Now the fourth column is how many years it'll take, given the amount you're gaining per year, to reach that 600 amount. If you are Enrique, with no advisors and no other Monarch power coming in, your base amount is going to be 3. Which means you'll be behind in tech, and you'll be taking it 4 2/3 years late every tech level. If you have your +1 advisor as Enrique, you will be just on time. And I mean just on time. Or estate privileges. If you grant both of those, you'll have 180 military or whatever points extra because you have 2 coming in over the base amount. Seems simple enough. And then I have the final column in here where the first one is the 13-year mana income minus tech. That's how much excess you will have to spend on whatever else you want, whether that's buying stability or coring provinces, hiring generals, suppressing rebels, whatever it happens to be. And then the last column is taking the 3 years ahead of time off of that, because most people, for whatever reason, usually take things at least 3 years ahead of time, or they'll buy it when they have that haven't embraced Renaissance penalty on there, because they're still needing to do that. So now that you have that in front of you, let's just clear up a couple of things on where you can get this 18 from. The 3 base, up to 5 from advisors, up to 6 from your ruler, 1 from power projection, 2 from focus, and then 1 from estates. So no matter what, you'll always have 3. So you want to gain as many of these as you can, because as you can see, the higher you go, the more available extra points you're going to have. And the numbers we're considering is in the bottom right. As you can see there, those are the only numbers that matter. Your ruler does not matter. He does, but it does not matter for this math. Neither does advisors or anything else. If you have an Enrique but a level 5 advisor, you are still at level 8 on this chart, and you will have, after the tech, 800 more points to spend on whatever you want, with nothing else. So your ruler is not quite as vital once you have your economy up, but by then, it's still good to have a good ruler. With all of that being done, let's now turn to these things here, because I think this is where a lot of people make a huge mistake and they don't properly plan. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So as you can see in front of you, this is a typical peace deal screen. Now there are only 2 numbers here that you really need to be focused on. The first one is the top one, the diplomatic 100 cost. That is your unjustified demands. You pay unjustified demands whenever you make certain requests in the peace deal that are not actually related to your war goal. So for instance, as I am doing here, it's a reconquest war, and I'm taking land that I do not have cores on. So I'm paying an additional cost in order to do that. On top of that, you can have a normal reconquest war where you don't have a claim, and you're paying unjustified demands there as well. Now, the unjustified demand cost is 2 Diplo for every 1 point of development you're taking. Since I'm paying 100, logically that would mean I'm taking 50 development. Now, there are ways to reduce this, including taking full influence ideas, which cuts it in half, and then it reduces it by 1/3 if they're a rival of yours. However, obviously you can't always do those or always take that idea group, but you still don't want to even be paying it in that case anyway, because every point that you are paying in unjustified demands is another point you can't put towards development or buying down war exhaustion when you need to, or whatever else you feel like you have to do in your game. So try and avoid having to pay any unjustified demands. Sometimes it's worth it, most of the time it's not. The other number here to keep in mind is that second number, the 250 admin point cost. This is the coring cost that you will have to pay for all the provinces you're taking, even in a reconquest war where you actually have to core it up. The reason I really wanted to nail this point home, though, is because, again, I'm taking 50 development worth of land. As you can see over here, this moving number, this moving thing over here, it's 10 admin to core every development. It's only telling you a number down here to get it to a territorial core. I think most people make that mistake. They assume it means to full core it. But that is not what it means. It means solely for a territorial core. So when people are doing their math for here, and they're looking at it going, oh, I have, say, 6 income coming in. I have 336 admin to spare in addition to my tech. That means I'll be able to take this peace deal and full state it and be on time. No, you will not. You will be behind by about 164 admin points. So you really needed to be 1 more for those 13 years to stay on time. And I think that is one of the biggest ways people make that mistake. They simply see this, they assume, oh, I can core this, and it's only half the cost. So keep that in mind in the future. Now, I also put on this concentrate development in your lands because this also matters. As you can see, in this instance, it would be concentrating 10 development, which would reduce the cost by 100 admin point cost. The thing is that it's split in half. So if you concentrate your development, it would only reduce this admin point cost to 200, not to 150, because then you're going to be still having to get it to territorial core, so you're paying 200, and then you pay the other 200 later. So keep in mind, if you're trying to keep your coring costs down quickly, and try and get this screen here to be more accurate with the concentrating development, just take half the development number. Again, I think it's just something that a lot of people don't quite realize and make assumptions, and then they move forward into a mistake, and you end up falling behind. So let's briefly talk about a couple of ways where you can reduce this tech cost, freeing up a lot more mana points. And I think the best way to explain that is right here, using this information on the right. So there's a lot of different ways that you can reduce your tech cost. And one of the easiest to do so is by embracing ideas. Now, whenever you embrace an idea, not an idea set, just an idea, you will get 2% off of whatever that monarch power type is. So for example, if you take quantity ideas and you take one of those ideas, then you're getting 2% off all of your military tech for the rest of the game. Seems simple enough. Which means every idea set has 14% off that type of technology for the rest of the game. Admin tech gives you an extra 10% off on top of that, meaning it's worth 24%. Aristocratic, 24%. Diplomatic, 24%. But all of them have 14% as a base, meaning that if you take economic and, say, humanist in your game, or religious, or admin, or whatever you want, you're getting 28% off just for taking 2 ideas. Meaning you're able to now embrace technology for 432 admin as a base instead of 600. On top of that, there are things like legalism that'll knock it off by 10%. Again, innovative will knock it off by 10% for all kinds. Admin also knocks it off by 10%, so does innovativeness. But then again, you have that 28%. So if you are, say, the Ottomans with full legalism and full innovativeness, which is not hard, especially with innovative ideas, you're only paying 192 admin power per tech level in admin. The reason why that's so huge is if even with 6 monarch power coming in for admin per month, which is a 0 admin ruler with estates and focus. That's it. They don't have any advisors, nothing else going for them, just that. They are still going to be able to at least half core all of Kara Kayunlu within one 13-year period. It's not that hard to stack these to free up a lot more monarch power in the future. And that is generally what the goals are of the metas. To either make it so dev cost is so significantly low that you're able to click that a lot, even though you're still within that 600 range, though you are dropping admin through economic, military through quantity, etc. Or you're going through the other meta, which is the innovative meta, where you're dropping tech costs, because if you drop tech costs and you have high innovativeness, that'll also drop your dev cost, leading to you being able to do a lot more clicks just because you have more free mana available simply by having your tech costs go way, way down. And then on top of that, if you are, say, the Ottomans with these ideas, you also get 45% off your coring cost, meaning it's not Kara Kayunlu you can half core within a 13-year period, it's England. You can half core all of England. Mind, if you are able to fight off the coalition you'll inevitably face. But you'll be able to actually do it without falling behind in tech at all. And that is the advantage of building off of this basic grasping roots here. So keep in mind how much your monthly mana income is, and then minus 600. So you don't have to keep in mind all of these numbers. Just keep in mind this 13-year mana income minus tech. As long as you can keep those rough numbers in your head of, if I'm at 7, I can core this much development, approximately, and keep that in mind, you'll be fine. So there's a couple of other tips and tricks that I would recommend you keep in mind, just so you're able to make your game a little bit easier and always make certain you're keeping up, not just in expansion, but also in tech. And these are them. Now, I've already talked about some of the points that are on here before, earlier in the video, so I'm not going to go ahead and repeat them now. However, there's some things that are really important to keep in mind. For instance, direct conquest. So taking land yourself and coring it, that's determined on your ability to do so by whatever your monarch point generation is at the time. So for instance, if you have Enrique, and on top of that, you have no advisors, you don't have the estates or anything else, so you're just at the base of 3, you can't expand that way. You're just going to fall even further and further and further behind in tech until you get rid of Enrique. However, diplomatic expansion does not require that. Diplomatically taking vassals or using a vassal to conquer land either through their claims or through their cores, or even if they don't have a claim, just giving them the land anyway, doesn't cost you any actual diplo points up front other than unjustified demands. Meaning even Enrique can still expand, reconquesting cores or taking their claims without any difficulty, allowing you to simply ignore the fact he's Enrique, allowing you to continue to expand and build up your empire without concern. This is actually where I think a lot of people get it wrong, because they'll look at their lack of admin points and then stop expanding, or in the alternative, they'll try and actually annex these guys diplomatically with the low diplomatic ruler, or they'll just simply conquer land with reckless abandon, not caring if they're going to be behind. Simply take whatever your ruler is, or whatever your generation is, and use that to plan whether you're taking things with admin or with diplo. And generally, since you're paying 2 points less diplomatically annexing somebody than actual coring, it's better to do diplomatic until you have other things to reduce that coring cost. For instance, absolutism, administrative efficiency, admin ideas, you have the core cost reduction from the Ottomans, etc. Until that happens, it's usually better to do it diplomatically, especially as a Catholic, because you can get a reduction in that. The next thing to keep in mind is there are reductions for doing coring from claims. Even if you have imperialism or holy war or anything else, get claims on those provinces. Even if you're taking it and it's an unjustified demand, try and have a claim on that province. Just a normal claim will reduce the coring cost by 25%, making it cheaper for you to use admin at that point, if you have no other reductions, than diplomacy. And if it's a permanent claim, that reduces it by 50%. Meaning those diet missions that give you claims, you almost always want to take them, because they're going to dramatically reduce that coring cost, and you always want to be doing that. Now, obviously, you don't want to be going on some rapid conquest spree, coring everything, while also trying to build up an admin idea. So try and rotate between diplomatic vassalization and expansion and direct coring based on what you're actually filling out in ideas at that time. In other words, if you're trying to fill out trade ideas, don't try and annex a vassal at that point. It can wait. Because every time you're doing that, you're making it so you're taking points away from tech. So just keep that in mind. And do try and use trade companies and territories a lot more often, because I see so many people full stating their entire empire when they're trying to conquer all of Europe. And you absolutely don't need to do that. It's totally unnecessary. And using trade companies on trade hubs, where you will have that center of trade, to boost up the goods produced, which I'll get into that in the trade guide later if I ever make one, to make more money, but also keep your governing cost down and your admin point cost down, is absolutely necessary unless you're playing super tall or you're culture converting everything. Next, don't buy mercantilism. Ever. It's just not worth the 75 Diplo power in order to buy it. Sorry, I mean 100 Diplo power. And at the end of the day, there are so many ways for you to get mercantilism, where if you really want to go that route to have all that trade power from your provinces, you can. It's not worth your Diplo power. Even if you have nothing else to spend it on, use it for deving. It is better off there. As far as your military tech, don't take military tech until you're about to attack somebody or it's on time. Taking a military tech when you're 2 or 3 years ahead of time, when you're not actually about to attack somebody, is a waste of monarch points. And I see people do that, especially in multiplayer games, all the time. If you're not at war or attacking somebody, taking it 3 years ahead of time is wasting things you could use for developing. So just hold on to it. If somebody attacks you, tech up. If you attack somebody else, tech up. Otherwise, there's no need. You don't need to have a better soldier if you're never going to be at war. So just hold on to the points until you actually need to spend it. And of course, if you're going to be going through a time where AE is being decaying, or if you have a really high military monarch point generation, or you're already ahead, that is when you take military ideas. Don't ever put it to where you might take a military idea, somebody else you're at war with can get a tech ahead of you. It's not worth that idea to end up falling behind even one tech in military. Always keep the ability, especially if you're going to be at war with somebody, the ability to tech up military if you have that ability. With all of that being said, though, that's all you guys really need to know. This calculation will give you all that you need to know to pre-plan when you take tech, how much expansion you do, whether you then pivot over to vassals to expand, or you core more, or what you do. Because knowing how much you have coming in and how much free slack you have will allow you to determine where to put those resources. Now, almost all of this I have on a spreadsheet. I'm putting that spreadsheet in the description so anyone can come in, they can pull the data off of it, and you can keep that available to you. So if you want to write this down on your mouse pad, go for it. You really don't need to, as long as you keep a general eye on every 1 point over, I believe it's 4. Yeah, 4. That is another 150 points that you have for whatever it is you're going to do. Whether that's buying stability, that's coring, that's deving, whatever it happens to be. So 150 times whatever that number is above 4. That is what you have free. As long as you do that, even if you have all the ideas to get tech discounts and everything else, you will always have more monarch power than you need. And as long as you have more than you need, you won't fall behind. And that's all you really need to do. If you guys like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll definitely be making more nation guides and more mechanic guides in the future. If you want me to cover a specific country or mechanic, let me know. I'm kind of running short on ideas that you guys actually want to see, that you guys have requested. And if you do that to me, you're going to get whatever it is I decide to make. So you run the risk of me making something you don't find interesting. But with all that being said, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day.